Welcome to the, just kidding. This is not the Bang the Drum podcast. You know what you call this? Maybe in the software world where you have versions, maybe it's version 4.5 or something like that in between episodes. So Stevie Boy's not here tonight, so we're just doing, talked about getting something up and running. We're 2 days out. So it's 7:14 here in beautiful Ohio. It's actually a really nice day today. Got a little playoff hockey on, Carolina, New Jersey. 2-1 Carolina. So as we talk draft, we thought we'd get some content out there, and more so just to talk about what we're going to be doing on Thursday. So we're excited about the live streams on our YouTube channel. YouTube channel, you can have to look up the handle here. You can find us. It's BTD, Bang the Drum, BTD Podcast Bengals. So the live streams there. Click like, notifications, and all that kind of stuff to go live. So we'll be doing that probably about 5. We could start a little earlier, but with drinks and cigars and all that kind of stuff, we'll probably wait till 5 and still, a few hours before the draft starts. So what we'll do that day, we're going to talk about Duke Tobin's comments. Steve's got some thoughts on that. So I'm Scott Dryden. Call me Dryden, call him Zorns, call me Scotty D, call him Stevie Z. So that's what we're looking at there. We'll talk about some of the rumblings. The rumors are already hot and heavy about, it cracks me up not to get on a tangent here, but I love doing it, talking about, the rumor is, Pittsburgh, for example, could trade Pickens if they got the right offer, or anybody could trade anybody to get the right offer. It's just nonsense. But we'll do somewhat analysis of each live pick. So, supposing the Titans take Cam Ward, I'll talk more about that. We'll talk about our thoughts on that, both Stevie and I. And then we'll be drinking early. Could get interesting. No bleep button. Smoking a Perdomo tonight, a little garage beer, just a light, easy evening. Stressful week, so it's good to wind down, talk a little football. And as we say, we don't want to work. We just want to talk football all day. And I want to see what's going to happen, supposing the Bengals do not take Jihad Campbell. If they don't, we may have to put a poll up. Will Zorns cry? I, for one, hope he will be crying. I want no part of that. We're also going to talk about NFL draft bets. So there's going to be some hot and heavy bets. I got a few out. Those bets are really fun as the draft unfolds. They're usually so far behind on picks and the way it lines up. If you haven't done that on whatever outlet you're using for a sports book, it's a little tricky how that all comes to play and how that goes to. So the dog's coming out to use the restroom again for the 85th time today. So some pre-draft takes for me. Never believe the talking heads. So they'll make you believe they know everything. They do this every year, and there's no credibility really in some of their picks. They say so-and-so is going to be great, so-and-so is going to be bad, or definitely going here, and there's no one ever really checks them. So the key to being popular is really to be a goon or be loudmouth, and we won't get into all that. Steve and I are trying to stay out of that. It makes it hard to do, but in essence, that's what gets you there. It's your outlet. So if you're on the network of all the loudmouths, ESPN, you're going to get views. So. And, something else, people don't really talk about it. We hit on a little bit a few episodes ago, I think, but Bill Polian talked about it today. Every team doesn't have the same methodology in terms of what metrics they're using, how they're evaluating prospects. So it's not always, they don't fit this scheme. It's somewhat that, but it's also somewhat like more so it's that, they don't use, Polian talked about how if they don't run a certain speed, 40 at the wide receiver position, for example, they don't draft him. I think that's lunacy, and that's how people fall through the cracks, right? Apuka Nakua recently, Cooper Kupp way back when, not necessarily because of speed, but, he mentioned he's right, Aaron Donald. So when I did the draft coverage, I had a high rating on Aaron Donald, as, I did Geno. And the Chancey kid, or whatever his name is from Pitt that's playing at Tampa, he's been a little banged up. Definitely undersized, all of them were, but they're tremendous players. At the end of the day, what matters is can you play football or not if you can run a track meet, and they get lost in the track meet. So that part's interesting, and this is going to be a fun draft. I know it doesn't have the hoopla I think that a lot of the other drafts have had before it, mainly because of the quarterback position, which is fair, right? It drives the needle anymore, especially the way the rules are tailored towards the quarterback. You can't hit him, can't breathe on him. They kind of rule the roost, so except Burrow, you can hit on him all day. But I think I still think it'll be interesting. And, if you have Q&A, that's one thing we're kind of missing. We're getting some of that. I've got a few questions coming in, but if you're local, Certainly send questions. If you know me, send questions. If you don't know me, send questions. I'll give the Twitter handle here in a little bit. Comment on YouTube and Facebook page as well. The YouTube page, we're trying to moderate these things and monitor them and see who's doing what. So, Stevie's getting some grief over his pink vape, as he should. So just a quick look at positions. I would not take the Campbell kid from LSU in the top 10. I just don't think his arms are long enough. It's kind of the opposite of what I said earlier. Can they play football? But there are some measurables that matter. And, I think he's going to be a nice player, but I think, it could be a guard. So for me personally, defensive tackle and guard, unless they're going to have to be something special for me to take them high. The Genty kid, we talked about it, a few days ago, running back. I think he's special. Receivers, I have Burden as my top receiver out of Mizzou. But I think Ibuka from Ohio State, and that's not being a homer. The guy just plays football. He's not flashy, but he can run routes, and that matters. Him in the slot in the NFL with, a high-octane offense, I think he's got a shot potentially going in the first round. If you look at the odds, it's kind of, against it. But I think he could be a very good receiver. This tight end group is special, and you'll get a lot of theories about that. Hey, this tight end group's special. I'm going to take a guard or a defensive tackle or whatever over them because of the depth of it. But that's how you make mistakes as well. So when you draft for position, or if you have that philosophy without knowing who you want later, this is deep, we'll take somebody. That's not team building, and that's not really evaluating prospects. So I think, Warren and Loveland, I think, I warmed up on him. I think both of those guys are good enough to take in the top 20. I think Warren's better. A lot of people now don't, I guess, but I just think he does more things, and I think he's as good at Loveland in terms of receiving. He does it in a different way, but he's bigger, stronger, probably just a better athlete overall with a whole lot more weight, can block, and do just so many things. I think he's got a shot being a Hall of Fame type player. In terms of quarterbacks, for me, I stay away from them, all of them in the top. There's no way I would take any of these guys in the top 15. So what that means to me, I'm going value. If I'm a team that's needing quarterback, I'm not going to any, I'm not going Ward or Sanders, especially Dart. I would take Milroe, as I said later. I just want to get all these on record as we're leading up to the draft, a couple days out. I think he's got a shot at being good as any of these guys, and you could probably get him late first if you wanted to trade up or wait till the second. And the reason you would trade up, it's tough. You don't want to give away picks. But if you believe in him and you can, throw in some late round pick and move up from the second to the first, maybe throw in a fourth or something next year, where you're not jumping way up in the first round, you get that extra year on the contract, which means a ton. So and Quinn Ewers as well. I think he's got a shot at being a pretty darn good NFL quarterback. People bashed him. He brought some of that on himself, the Ohio State hijinks, and he's a different type of kid. But I think he's maturing, and his arm. I think he could be a really good pro, just as good as anybody in the top. Jackson, Donovan for guards, Donovan Jackson, Booker, and then Ratledge. I love Savinea, who I mentioned earlier on episode 4, I think. I think he's a better pick in the third round than I would take someone in the first. My second-rated edge is Shamar Stewart. And I bring him up again because I think Shamar Stewart has a shot at being a special player. It's not about his sack. I get it, and I get that it's a red flag. It certainly is. It's a but he gets in the backfield. He disrupted everything. There's a lot of plays where he's getting in the backfield and the quarterback's running to the opposite side and there's nobody there, right? If you had a Sam Hubbard type player there, the play's being made. So cornerbacks, you go back to listen to 4. We talked about some sleepers there, both Stevie and I. Safeties, I like Starks and Watts. I thought about that and I thought, maybe I was being a little too critical on both. I like both of them. I just don't like them as first rounders. I think the first rounder to me is Eamon Worry. If the Bengals take Eamon Worry at 17, I'm ecstatic about him. I think he can be a big-time player. And I like Bowman Jr., who I mentioned last episode. I'm not saying he is Mike Hilton, but that smaller, quickish, nose for the ball, gets in, stick his nose in there, hit people. He's a rough customer. I like him. And linebackers, can I talk about anybody but Jihad? Are there any linebackers in this class, Stevie Boy? He is a good player, and I know there's been some folks that talk about him, but I just don't see him as a 17th pick. They might. That doesn't mean the Bengals won't do it. They do a lot of things like that, but I just don't think he's that big of an impact player to pick that early. I'm probably, in the minority on that. I've been on the minority on a lot of picks over the years, many times right, a few times not. So it's going to be interesting. And, I'm writing a column. I already wrote a column. I think it's published tomorrow in print to be online as well. I'll try to remember to share it this time on Twitter. It's on the People's Defender in Western Ohio. So, here's the only players. As I wrote that, I decided, I wrote only the draft only to the 17th pick. I used to do the whole thing, and it's time consuming. For those of you that do it all the time, some guys, which I'll never understand the section. Hey, it's time for our 18th mock draft. I mean, really? I guess it drives. I've had drives views, I guess, or reads or visits, but I just never subscribed to that. Even when I was doing it as a regular writer, USA Today and stuff like that, I just thought it was, just didn't make any sense to me. But so for that, I did the draft to the 17th. Hadn't taken Shamar Stewart. And the guys I'd be happy with, and it's, I've not heard anybody say this, I don't want a defensive tackle. My God, how many opportunities are you going to waste on that? I'd be happy with Shamar Stewart, Eamon Warren, who probably won't be there. Loveland, if he is, I think I'd be happy with that as the more I think about it. Green, the defensive end from Marshall, and Iziraku from BC. I think he's got a shot at being a really good pass rusher. To me, when you're picking 17th, you got to get an impact player. If they... guard even, they left themselves open, but, let's take a guy that, next year could play tackle for us. That's what they do. They act like they're a team that's getting 12, 13, 14 wins a year, and they're not. They should be, but they're not. And they got to get some people in here that can make a difference. As Stevie Boy said, get some playmakers in here, and a guard's not it. You got to take some now. You have to, but the guys in the second, third round, in my opinion, are just as good as the guys that are going to be picked in the first, so why waste it? So, to me, if you get one of those guys, that's great. And we're going to talk about Duke Tobin's comments there for whatever that's worth. I'm not a Duke fan, as you could probably tell in some of the past shows. I'm not going to bash on him, but don't go to the safe. That's guys try to save their jobs. He's probably not under any heat, although he should be. You take a guard or somebody like, well, he started 5 or 6 years, but you miss on Hall of Fame type talents at premier positions like edge, even receiver. They can't go that route. But those tight ends, I would have traded up last year for Bowers, for example. So that's the guys I'd be happy with. Evidently, hopefully I'm not getting robbed or there's murder going here as you hear all the cops. But we're on YouTube, as I mentioned, BTD Podcast Bengals. Follow us there. You can follow me on X, not Twitter, I guess, BTD Scott D. You can follow Steve at BTD Steve Z, and Bang the Drum Podcast is on Facebook. Funny story about that. No offense to these guys, but a few drummers got on there. These drummers, man, they got some screws loose. Look at Steve. Drummers got on there and was trying to reach out to us. He's actually got a big following, so stay in touch with him. But I haven't mentioned Steve yet, but got a big following, and he thought it was a drum podcast, which is fine, but understandable, I guess. But they were he was another guy or two. He was a little snippy about it. I said, it says a football podcast in the logo, right? So kind of funny story anyway. So not an official episode. Just want to get 13, looks like about 15 minutes of conversation out here to get everybody warmed up. It's going to be fun. I hear a lot of people, I just can't wait for this to be over. I don't view it that way. I think it's a lot of hoopla. I try not to get involved in it until, you get into, maybe February a little bit. You're thinking about it all year, but people that are just hardcore in it for months and months and months, I think it can be pretty exhausting, fatiguing. You get tired of hearing the same old names, the same old discussions. So, but we will be live streaming. Looks like the weather's going to hold off a little bit better. We'll have a little better lighting, and we're working on all that kind of stuff. But we'll be outside here at the patio, watching the draft just like you will, and we'll be talking about every pick. Who should you bet on? I think it'll have a live chat on YouTube as well. So you can chime in. What do you think about this? And we'll try to keep active and watch those as we go. So appreciate everyone that's following us. A little low key here today, more than I'm usually yelling, screaming, getting Stevie all fired up. But I think we're looking forward to it. I also look forward to getting, the Buckeyes are going to get drafted. We'll talk every team, even the stupid Dallas Cowboys for one of my friends there, the dumb Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. We'll talk about what he's going to do. Will he jump in and take a receiver? So we're going to hit everything. So it should be fun hammer on the teams in the AFC North. It's going to be a fun night. So thanks for tuning in. Spread the word. We're growing pretty quickly, and I think if more people that'll share it, like it, subscribe it, the bigger following we'll have. And then maybe Stevie and I can sit here someday and do shows every day and just bang the drum and not work. That would be great. Not steal Stevie's line for me. It's his line, although I'm probably the one that says it the most on the road. But we'll talk to you on Thursday around 5 o'clock. Looking forward to it.